The storm rolled in like a scream through the valley, wind howling, trees bending, thunder rattling the bones of the small Pennsylvania town nestled in the hills. Amid the chaos, in a quiet suburban neighborhood, a scream broke through the night. It wasn't thunder. It was a child. And it was followed by silence. The electricity flickered, the power line groaned, and in that fleeting darkness, the world stood still. Officer Jenna Blake had heard a lot in her 13-year career on the force. She had responded to domestic disputes and stolen cars, fainting seniors, and barking dog complaints. She'd seen the best in people and the worst. But nothing chilled her more than the sound of silence following terror. It said that someone had been taken. That someone was suffering. And that someone might still be alive if only someone acted quickly enough. She floored the accelerator on her patrol car, K9 Max at her side, an aging Belgian Malinois with a heart deeper and truer than most men she'd ever met. Max's nose twitched as he sniffed the charged air. He was attuned to change, to danger, to desperation. Dispatch had reported a possible break-in at the Miller residence, about 5 minutes ago. A neighbor had watched a shadow move across a window. A single, muffled cry had broken the night, and then silence. Jenna had been the first to respond. She activated the lights, screeched into the driveway, and leapt from the vehicle, rain hammering the roof. Lightning split the sky, illuminating the neatly trimmed lawn, the white porch posts, the darkened windows. Lightning struck again, and in the pale starkness of that flash, the world flashed frozen for a heartbeat. The house looked untouched, door locked, lights off. Yet there was a rip in reality here. Max growled low. Deep. A sound that vibrated in the chest. Jenna's hand found his harness. She whispered, "Go." He darted inside, a lean shadow propelled by purpose. Jenna followed, flashlight and badge in hand. The narrow entryway gave onto an open staircase and a small hallway with rooms branching off. Max patted ahead, then froze. He cocked one ear, then barked low, urgency coiling in every vibration of his throat. Jenna edged forward. Rain dripped in, splattering on the hardwood. Their breaths echoed in the hollow space. Upstairs lay Emily's room. A soft lavender painted one wall, the others were covered with storybook scenes of unicorns and rainbows. Stuffed animals lay strewn like discarded hopes across the carpet. A doll lay face down, its hair tangled, its porcelain cheeks muddied. A blanket lay crumpled where someone had been pulled away. The window was cracked open for ventilation. The closet doors were shut tight. Everything spoke of a life lived in normal suburban rhythms, that is, until you looked closer. A whole world had been ripped open here, rearranged by fear. But no child. No happy chaos of play. No sound. Just unnerving stillness. Jenna slowed her breathing. Max had stopped at the foot of a small toy chest, wooden, painted with stars and smiling moons, faded and chipped at the edges. He stood guard, hackles raised, low growl vibrating in his chest. Jenna's heart pounded in her ears. She knelt, flashlight illuminating the corner. She pressed the short latch. It held. She eased it open. Inside, crouched and trembling, pale as dusk and barely breathing, was a little girl. Her eyes, big, limpid, fluttered open in the light. She stared, as though waking from a dream she didn't remember dreaming. Jenna's hands shook. She hoisted the girl out with care, emergency training overriding shock. Max whined, leaning forward, nudging her limp fingers with his wet nose. Jenna whispered into the chestnut curls, "It's okay, you're safe now." The lull of kindness she poured into that simple offer was a lifeline. Through the narrow space of that chest, she could feel the girl's brittle hope. Paramedics arrived moments later, sorted the scene with efficient urgency oxygen masks, a gentle rush down the stairs, warm blankets. Jenna hovered as Emily was loaded. She offered her badge, said only, "She's going to be okay." It was a prayer. Another flash of lightning answered in the sky. The ambulance pulled away, its siren a soft keening in the storm. That night, Jenna returned to Max's side, brushing rain-soaked leaves off his broad shoulders. He sat quietly, alert even in exhaustion. They walked back to the car together, an officer and her partner, bonded by purpose and shared triumph. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the incredible loyalty of animals like Max, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Pawsitive Tales. These stories aren't just about animals, they're about hope. And hope needs a voice. In the days that followed, more details emerged. Emily's father, a high school music teacher, had been called to work at the last minute. Her mother, Claire, had been at the grocery store. In a sliver of unguarded time, a trusted family friend, someone they believed in, slipped inside. A moment, a decision, and a 6-year-old was locked in a toy chest and left for dead. The neighbor's dog had barked, a distant alert that caused the intruder to flee. Social media lit up. Police held press conferences. The Miller household became a magnet for grief and outrage. But through it all, Claire clung to a single truth: he saved her. The dog saved my baby. She repeated it so often it became a chorus. Others echoed it, united in the awe of an animal's gift, the gift of life. Canine Max became a local hero, featured on TV, praised by officials. Photos captured him stiff-legged, alert, ears raised, eyes sharp with purpose. But cameras don't see the small moments. The ones in hospital rooms. The ones under streetlights. That night, Jenna sat in the auditorium of the local police academy, her badge untouched except to hold her uniform in place. Max lay beneath the stage. A small microphone stood where a podium usually was. Jenna's voice trembled as she began to speak. He's more than a K9 officer. He's my partner. You don't get to choose the moment he chooses you. The crowd swallowed their breaths. Max shifted where he lay. He was quiet but present, his presence lending Jenna equivalent courage. Media coverage showed him receiving a medal. Reporters asked Jenna questions she barely processed. Photos of Emily hugging him came later, an image that stopped hearts. But in those early days, back at home, life had changed for Emily in ways that cameras can't measure. Within hours of being found, she had fallen asleep in the hospital, the small oxygen tube in place. She was groggy, disoriented, unsure. Claire stayed at her bedside, stroking her hair, repeating reassurances that were more for herself than for Emily. Max got you. I got you. The doctors said the lack of fresh air had caused mild organ stress, lungs, kidneys, but with care she would recover physically. The emotional wounds would take longer. Weeks passed. Emily was discharged, but the world she returned to was changed. The open window felt like a threat. Sirens triggered tremors. Sudden noises sometimes sent her diving to the floor. She was fading inward. The vivacious jokester from first grade who loved fairy tales and car races had retreated into silence. The counseling team worked through trauma therapy, CBT, breathing exercises, desensitization. Emily wore a button on her jacket, courage. She'd agreed to one session in the local park. All she did was sit, eyes fixed on her shoes, thumb rolling against her fingers. Then Jenna arrived. She walked up with Max. She opened the car door and called quietly, "Hey, champ." Max barked softly, then trotted over, nudging Emily's leg. And never let her get close to dogs. This one was different. He was hers. Something in her chest shifted. Jenna gave Emily a toy, a small plush of the same kind as those scattered in her room that night. Max took it in his mouth and dropped it at her feet. He looked up, hopeful. Emily blinked. Then she picked it up. For the first time in many days, her gaze found Jenna's. Then Max's. She met them. Trust began its silent weaving. The next day, Emily didn't speak or shout or run, but she sat in the hospital garden with Max. And Jenna read her a story. The next day, Emily told Max the colors of the sky. Then she giggled when he tried to catch leaves falling off the tree. Then she whispered one word. Dog. Jenna let the earth shift back into place. Over weeks, Max became a fixture at the Miller house. He was no longer just an officer's partner. He was Emily's. He slept at the foot of her bed. Sometimes, if she was afraid in the night, he'd lift his head, nuzzle her hand, growl at phantom threats. Claire said, "He listens when I can't." Emily whispered, "Thank you, Max." Jenna visited, her eyes damp more than once. She was proud, but also heartbroken, for the child who'd seen so much fear, and for the beautiful creature who'd begun to show his age. Max's coat was graying, his joints stiffened. But his spirit, that didn't bend. Life slowly regained its rhythms, the kind built with small joys. Emily returned to school. She struggled at first, flashbacks of the chest, the darkness, but she had Max. In the school hallways, he walked ahead, back to her, teachers smiled, classmates patted his head. And every time Emily felt a flicker of panic, she would look to him, and he would meet her gaze, steady. And she would breathe. In time, Emily spoke in class again. She presented a show and tell on therapy dogs. She spoke to fifth graders about second chances and loyalty. The world saw her, not as a victim, but as a survivor. And Max, toes splayed on the polished wood floor, chest heaving with every breath, let the world see him as well. This close bond came with its own challenges. As spring turned to summer, Max began slowing. He couldn't chase the frisbee. He hesitated climbing the back steps. Jenna asked the vet to come for a home visit. The news was tender: heart disease, arthritis, age. Nothing sudden, but steady decline. One cold December morning, Emily tiptoed into the living room. Max lay on his favorite rug, eyes closed. His breaths came in shallow trains. Emily froze. She sat beside him, pressed her hand to his side. He opened his eyes halfway. She whispered, "I'm here." He lifted his head, licked her palm, then lowered it again. Claire brushed tears off Emily's cheek. Jenna cradled Max's head. "You've been her rock." They called the vet. Emily handed Max a plush he loved. Jenna held the leash. Claire held Emily. It was time. As the vet spoke softly about gentle passing, Emily leaned in and said, "Thank you for finding me. You saved me. Now I'll save you, too." The room stilled. The echo of that moment lingered in the air. Max exhaled one last time and closed his eyes. In the days that followed, the house was still. Emily wandered the rooms, touching favorite spots, behind the couch, under the table, that purple bedspread. Her voice slipped in and out of memory. Yet even in the hush, life whispered back. They buried Max beneath a maple in the yard, under a headstone that read, "Forever our hero." Emily planted wildflowers around it. On the first anniversary of his passing, they set out a small wooden toy chest beside the marker, rebuilt, stars freshly painted. It held a note, "For Max, who taught me courage." Years passed. Emily grew. High school graduation came with tears and applause. She spoke at the ceremony. She said, "Max saved me once. Then he taught me to live. Now I hope to help others have the chance to heal." Her words were met with rising applause. Claire stood at the side, arms wrapped around Jenna. The old officer had retired by then, but she wore her uniform for pride's sake that day. And in that crowd, quietly, a kindly therapy dog sat, watching Emily smile. Soon, Emily founded Max's Mission, a program that rescues retired K9s and pairs them with children who have experienced trauma, kids who were lost in darkness, but who, like her, might be found by an animal's quiet love. The program grew, funding therapy dog teams, training handlers, hosting support workshops. Once, as Emily spoke at a conference, a reporter asked her to describe Max. She paused. "My dog," she said, voice catching, "gave me what I couldn't give myself. He taught me that kindness doesn't ask for reward. Loyalty doesn't demand words. It just is." The audience stood, some wiped tears. Now, 10 years from that night, Max's story lives in hundreds of lives. His toy chest sits in the foundation's lobby, alongside photos, one of him curled around 6-year-old Emily in the hospital, eyes soft, Emily clutching the plush unicorn. Another is Emily last spring, hugging a young boy as a brown dog stands, Max's echo, by her side. And in every photograph, in every life saved, the message is clear: heroes don't need capes. Sometimes they wear collars. Max's passing left a wound, but also a path, a journey from suffering to safety, from silence to voice. Emily found words in a chest painted with moons. Jenna found hope in a bark. Claire found solace in friendship. Max found the purpose he was always born with. So when you feel lost, when the dark seems endless, remember, someone may be waiting in the chest. Waiting to be heard. To be found. To be loved. And sometimes, just sometimes, it's a dog who will lead you back to the light. If this story touched your heart, please let us know by liking, sharing, and subscribing to Pawsitive Tales. Leave a comment below and tell us what's the most unforgettable thing an animal has ever done for you or someone you love. Your stories keep hope alive.